Hi everyone, this is month of November and we are making the maze game. So as you see, you're going to get with your game a little silver 7mm ball. You're going to get a plastic covering over it as well as screws to hold down the plastic covering. And this is one of those open-ended projects, so you can make any maze game you like. The only thing I would like you to do is just make sure that the square is about the same size as the one in the video. Everything, all the walls on the inside though, are all up to you how you want to design your maze game. I suggest before you begin, grab a notebook, a post-it, and it is actually, the post-it is the same size as the game. Or just a small sheet of paper, and then draw out how you want your maze game to look like before you start. I kind of did it on the fly while I was making it and recording myself make it. So a lot of the times in the video, I do change my mind a few times. It's going to be a fun project. It turned out really awesome and it's a good size, I think. So I hope you enjoy this month's TinkerCAD of making a maze game. Once you're finished, email me, let me know what color you want. This is the pink color, so I just print out one color for the maze game. We have pretty much every color, so if you want to print out in any of those, colors, let me know once you're done. Email me at the bottom here, and I hope you have fun tinkering, making your maze game for November. Okay everyone, so this is where we're going to start with our home screen. We're going to work in 3D design this time. So first thing, let's change the name. I'm changing the file name to SS, as you see some of my old projects pop up. Maze game. So what we're going to work on first is building the outer box of it. Basically we're going to use all of the box shapes to do this. So I'm clicking and I'm dragging the box onto the work plane. You can really just put it anywhere, and we're going to change the size. So this is going to be the overall base of the box, and I'm clicking on the white corner and I'm going to type in 80 by 80 for this side. I'm actually going to move it up a little bit so you can see a little bit better. So it's 80 by 80, and then the height will be 2 because this is going to be the bottom portion of the box. And we're going to grab another box out, and these are going to be the walls, okay? So once again, I'm clicking on the white, and you see this arrow indicates how the length of something or the depth is. So we're going to match this with the same size, so this is going to be 80. And now we got to make sure the width is going to be 1.5. And then the height is going to be 10. Now we're going to have to line up this wall onto this box. I'm just using my left arrow key, moving it over. And I'm going to click on the fit to screen window, rotating the camera just a little bit to make sure that I have this wall match up. I noticed down here it's not matched up. So once you think you got one side done, turn the camera like I'm doing. And you can see too the outlines of the blue here. So I'm just going to hit it. It looks like one time worked out perfectly. So I can see that one time it looked like it matches up perfectly now. What's great about TinkerCAD, it still shows you the drawing of the two shapes, but we know that they are together. For the purpose of making sure that everything looks okay, I'm going to just change the color of the red to maybe a blue. Once again, we can only print out one color, so the color really doesn't matter when you're designing something. I'm just changing it just so we can see a little bit clearer what's going on. Now I'm going to duplicate this because we already have the sizes. So I selected the wall. I'm going to duplicate it. Click here. And I'm just going to use my left arrow key and I'm going to move it all the way to the other side of the box. So overall, the snap grid with one working out great. Okay, let me click on the zoom in and once again rotate the camera. I see I need to move over maybe just one more. I'm going to change the snap grid to 0.25 and I just bumped it over by 2. So it was just a half a millimeter over too far. So I'm going to change that back to 1.0. turning the camera, making sure that it lines up on this side, which it does. So that's great. Now I'm going to click this home screen, bump back, and I'm going to now click duplicate again. This is where we're going to rotate it 90 degrees, or negative 90 in this instance. If you rotate the other way, it would be 90. And I'm going to move this one to the back. Okay, zooming in just to see it, rotating the camera. I actually believe that is, oh wait, I was going to say perfect. It's not perfect because I do see that there's a little bit up there we need to bump. So I'm going to change this to 0.5 and just hit it once, and it looks like it fits. So I'm looking for the squares and the crosshairs to be perfect. Let me zoom in so you can see a little more. So see, this is like a perfect square. Hit that home screen again. Now all we have to do is duplicate the top piece and use that arrow key just to have it slide all the way down. It's taking a while because I have 0.5, so I'm really just holding the arrow key. You can always move it a little bit, but I use this method for a little bit better control of it. Okay. You know what, that actually looks like it fits. So this is the start of the maze box. So this is going to be the overall size of it. I'm going to give you a top, and it's going to be screwed in. So we have to make the little parts or the little corners where the screws are going to go. The objective for that is to make sure that when you're playing the game, you don't lose the ball. So I do want to make it like an overall really nicely enclosed feature that you can have for this. So I'm going to drag out the cylinder shape. I'm just bumping up the sides just to have nice clean corners. And for the cylinder, we're going to change this. Click on that white corner. 6 by 6. And the top is going to be 10. So basically we're going to move it to fit in those corners. Once again, using my arrow key. And I'm just trying to get it as close enough to the corner as I can. So I'm going to zoom in on that. And I think this is gonna work out fine. I'm matching the line of one of the cylinder, one over here, and this is supposed to like hover out. So this is good. This is what you want to have. Okay. So now the nice thing about this one, when it comes to duplicating all of them, all you have to hit is that duplicate button, and I'm going to change the snap grid a little bit more. I'm going to go by 5, and hopefully it takes up a lot less time. Unfortunately, though, it seems to be that it does get, we still want to make sure this lines up properly. So even though it might take a lot less time, we'll speed this. Oh, click on this one, duplicate. And when you duplicate the shape that you're on, it should relatively stay in that spot. Okay, so making sure that the last 2 corners are good. That one's good. Click on this one. Boop. That one's good too. All right, so we got that done. Now I'm going to duplicate one of these shapes because we're going to do a cylinder, but we're going to change it to a hole. So I'm clicking on hole. And these cylinders are going to be 1.75, 1.75, and then the top, I'm just going to change it to like a 12. We really just want to make sure the hole goes into, just to make, for that screw to go, so it doesn't have to be, just like almost centered. Changing this to point, trying to get as centered as possible. Okay, and rotate this camera just to make sure. Okay, I think that will be good. So I'm just trying to get as close enough to the center as I can for this. And I just want to make sure that like they don't have to be perfectly lined up, but at least lined up enough that I can make sure that they all I can use it to put the screw in. Now, with this hole, it does go all the way through. So we do want to move the hole up by 2. So if you see down here, this is how far up it is from the plane. We do want to move it up by 2. And basically the reason why we just don't want a hole to go all the way through the bottom of the box. It's not necessary. So I wanted to just at least go to the top of the lower plane. And that should be good. So let me just zoom in this one. I'm hitting this whole home key, and I'm just going to duplicate and just do the same thing. Bring it all the way around, add to each section. So I will speed through this part so you don't have to watch it. Okay, now that I have all my pieces where I want them to be, all I gotta do is just group them all. So I like to click off to the side, and you see I'm dragging this slotted red box, clicking group, and everything will become one piece. So it changed to a light blue because that's the dominant color here. So that is what you're going for. So this is great. This is awesome. So I'm ready to now start creating my maze walls and making sure I can roll a ball through them. Okay, now that we have our base, I'm going to pull out this ball, and this is going to be my guide essentially for where we're going to create the maze. So what I'm going to do is, first thing, because the actual ball is going to be 7 by 7 by 7, it's a 7 millimeter bearing. I'm just going to change us all to 7 so that I have an accurate size. Now, we're going to duplicate this, and I'm moving this off to the side. I'm just going to use this as the way to break it down to pieces, and I'm going to use the walls that were already created. So I'm deleting all the extra stuff I don't need, all the cylinders, the holes for the cylinders, because I just really want the walls. And the walls are going to be what we're going to make this maze with. So let's start by making the starting spot and then the ending spot. So I'm going to change this to a hole. You know what? I'll duplicate this as well, just as a um, just to have extra ones. So let's say I want to start the maze up here, and I'm going to duplicate this one and pick my ending spot. So let's say I'm going to end it right about here. And this is going to be up to you where you want to start it, end it. So now that that's all set, I'm just going to group those and just make that like an indentation of where we're going to start and stop. I do want to make sure though I didn't go all the way through, which it kind of looks like I might have. So I might, yeah, I see a little hole right there. So I'm going to undo and then just bring the balls up a little bit. So I'm selecting one over there, holding shift. So I'm selecting this one. I'm going to hold shift. I'm also selecting this one right here. I'm just going to bring them up to about 1 millimeter just to give enough of an indent. And then I'm holding shift again while they're both selected and selecting the base and grouping them. Okay, so now the indent should still be there. Well, looks like I have a duplicate, so I'm going to delete that. Okay, and now I'm just going to click on the square just to center everything. So this is going to be my starting, ending spot. So this is the more creative spot where you want to add your walls. So like we have the 4 over here. I'm just dragging them over. These are all from the other maze. Trying to rotate this camera a little bit so I can move this one over as well. Bring it right there. I don't have to use all these. Really, I just like the overall width and height, and that's like perfect for what I want to do. So that's really why I wanted to keep all these walls and use them for my project. Now, when you do this, you want to make sure you have enough room. So if you put it too close like this, that ball is not going to move. You want to make sure you have enough room. So I'm bringing it out here, and we'll check again in a bit too, but at the end of it, just to make sure. I'm going to bring this ball over just to make sure that you see it does wiggle around in this space. So this will be perfect for how far you want it to be. Now, if you wanted to get like really, really close, I mean, this still would work. Just like I said, you gotta make sure that you got this. And then also remember, I got this indentation, so if I do that, it's not gonna sit properly because it's gonna think that it has to go further down here. but this should wiggle just fine where it is. So I'm going to set that ball off to the side and then bring this wall out. Once again, I am using my keyboard keys for a lot of this because the snap grid that's on one will easily help me figure out where to properly place everything, and I don't have to worry about the snaps. So pay attention to the snap grid. Yeah, so let's start. So let me see. So it's at 80 right now, and I know I've said in the past that I like to type everything in. I still like to type everything in. So what I did was I clicked on this white line at the bottom here, and it's really once you get to that point where you see 80, that's indication of the length of this. So that's what I want to change. If I clicked on this one, I can see height, and I don't want to do anything about the height. The height is perfect, and you want to keep the height at 10 for all these walls. And then I want to see if there's something about the. Okay, so you see this 1.5, that's the width of the walls. That's also fine, so we don't want to change that. So really, we're just changing the lengths of all these walls. Okay, so keep that in mind as we go. So let me just half it to 40. And I think I'll leave it like that. So the objective is to start there, work my way here. Now, really, it's entirely up to you how you want to take this maze to wherever you want to do with it. You can make a lot of dead ends. You can make different shapes. You can use other shapes in here to exaggerate how the maze is going to look. The only real rule is you want to make sure your ball is actually going to successfully reach the other end. So whenever you do this, just make sure that this ball, as it goes along each path, obviously if it's in a dead end, you don't want to worry about it, but as long as it's between the walls and it's going around, you want to make sure it actually could fit. So that's why we're keeping this as our guide. And we want to make sure, once again, this is 7 by 7 by 7. Okay, because that's the ball you're going to get at the end once it's all printed. Now, with that being done, I'm going to make this my end. Once again, though, I want to change the size. So this one was 40. I'm going to change this to 60. Now, I think what I'm going to do is try and make it like swoop around, and like try to do that sort of way about it. Now, here's where it's going to get a little bit harder because when it comes to, let's see if I get close enough. You know, now that I'm looking at top view, I think I want to make this a little bit smaller. So I'm going to ungroup this and give myself a tighter wall. So I'm just bringing this ball down a little bit more. I just use my arrow keys to let the snap grid take its spot. Okay. So I'm going to group all these walls together. I will change this to a different color so it doesn't get confusing with the new walls in. So let me change it to, let's do white. Okay, so I have this one. So what I want to do with this, let me change the size first. Let me take it to 80. Here we go. Since I see the 80, I'm going to change this to 30. Okay. I don't know if I really want that there yet. I'm trying to see. I'm going to do a path to bring this out over here. So I'm going to change this to, let's do 50. So now I have to make sure this corner, so I'm making sure this ball can fit in this corner. So this is perfect. Has enough wiggle room. I'm going to zoom in a little bit, you can see. So it has enough wiggle room to bounce around the wall. So this is perfect. I'm going to leave that there. Let me group it just to make sure I don't move it in the future. So once again, now it's group, it changed all one color. I'm changing it back to white. So anytime something's grouped, I'm going to change it to white so it makes it a little bit easier to tell what's happening. So with this wall being there as a blockage, I'm going to move the one I had up here down a little bit. I'm also going to duplicate this right there. So just have this off to the side. So this will be my like duplicated wall. So I'm going to just keep that as my one to duplicate for the future. And so let me see if I want to keep it like this. So I'm just rolling this ball, making sure it can, and really it's actually could use my keyboard keys. So if I do this, just have it roll, Now I'm holding down the down button. Now I'm clicking on the right arrow key, and now I'm clicking on the left or the up arrow key, just making sure it could fit. So we're right here, which is good. Now I want to rotate this. So I'm rotating it to 90 degrees. And I'm going to duplicate this because I want to keep my dummy walls in sync with each other. I'm trying to get this nice and centered so you can see what I'm doing. I changed the perspective down here. So perspective view does this with a little bit of 3D, but if you do it the opposite, flat view, that it actually is nicer because then you don't have to worry about the shadows. Okay, so now that I have this all set, let's add another wall. I'm going to duplicate this. And I think I want to add it like right about here. So I'm going to rotate this duplication to 90 degrees, rotate it here. And once again, selecting the ball, I'm just using my mouse keys just to make sure that everything fits as we go. So I'm pretending that the ball's rolling through the walls. And it looks like this will be fine. It is a little close here, but it seems like as I'm moving up and down, it does clear it, so we're good there. Okay, so now let me duplicate this one because I want to keep it the same direction. And I'm going to have this one come down right here. So I'm going to bring this right here, once again selecting the ball, making sure that this will fit. It does, like, it seems like it could bounce around in here, so that's good. So making sure it fits. Now here's where I want to figure out if I want to make this bigger or just have it kind of make another wall just come all the way down. I think I want to do it that way. So let me duplicate this. And once you get comfortable to the point where you understand what you're doing and how you're creating, I'm just really just going by the flow of this whole maze. So if you feel comfortable enough to like fast forward all of this until you get to the final step of grouping everything, then you could skip this part really. Okay, so I think I'm gonna make this a little bit longer. So I'm selecting this white square and I'm changing the 30 to 50. Now that does close everything in, so I'm not gonna have it at 30. Let's change to 40. And here's where the ball can kind of either go, could go this way or it kind of gets stuck over here. So this is a good little obstacle course. I want to make sure that once again it's moving through everything. It seems to be moving just fine. Okay, so now I'm gonna just duplicate this one, just move it over and see where we're going from here. Maybe what I want to do is, I don't want to get too close. This would be a little too close, so I'm just moving it down here. But I don't know, like I think I want to keep having it go up. So I think I'll just extend this wall out. So it's the nice thing about it, like once you have it, so that's the nice thing about it, like really you could just change the lengths and then it kind of does its own like extension. So that's perfect to worry about changing it any other way. Okay, once again making sure the ball could clear everything. This looks like it might be, ooh, too tight. Oh, this is a little too tight. Yeah, I think this is a little too tight, so let me bring this wall out. We could just move that one just over one. Okay, I think that would be perfect. So I'm just gonna use my keyboard keys to make sure that it goes through all the way. So you see, I have a very extensive long maze. Like I am not taking like no chances here, just having fun with this and just making it as long and probably as difficult as possible. So I'm duplicating this other wall out here. I'm gonna make this a 10 because now I want to have these kind of go down the ways. And I know 10 is a little too big, but I'm gonna put it where I want to. And then I'll change it afterwards. So let me change it to, oh, it's actually 20. So let me change it to 5. I'll do 8. Okay, 8 definitely clears 8. Perfect. So I'm going to bring this back up again. I'm going to duplicate this wall. Sorry, it keeps zooming in and out. Duplicate this wall again, and then I'm just using, once again, using your keyboard keys. It's the easiest way to maneuver everything. Just kind of duplicate and then just repeating this pattern down so it kind of does a bounce off the wall effect. So the objective is, once this goes, it's just bounce, bounce, bounce. So just doing this whole little bouncing effect right here. So once I get to this point, I want to figure out where I'm going to go from here. So either I could have it just kind of snake around, or I'm going to do the same thing and have them do little bounces. So I'm bringing this out. So there's the problem with this. I do have it, like the overall size isn't is equal. So I'm trying to figure out, okay, if I have it like this, what would be the best way to incorporate in moving? So I might just bring this out, change the size to 20. So I'm actually gonna change this to like a 5 again. It's gonna take it too if I can put something over here, kind of like an arcade piece. I might do that. So I'm just gonna have this piece here, duplicate again. Duplicate. So this when you duplicate, your pieces kind of just end up a little bit everywhere. Actually, I'll do like this. So I want to do a different thing. I'm gonna do something fun. I'm just gonna add like another shape. So I'm looking for different shapes to use. And overall, I think I want to do like a fan kind of shape. So what I'm going to search up is maybe fan and see what pops up there. So I have some options here. Some of these you could change the arms. This is like an actual ceiling fan. Sunflower, that'd be kind of cute. I'm going to type in something else. I'm going to type in fin and see what happens. And this pops up. So this is cool. It's called a radial fins. So I definitely want to change the size because right now it's over the maze. So remember the height's going to be 10 for everything. So changing the height 10. And I also want to change this to 8 by 8. Just kind of move it right in there, see if it wedges. And I think oh, it actually fits. Okay. So potentially it could like wedge itself in there. So the ball could possibly get stuck in this wall. So this is a nice little obstacle course. I don't know if it'll actually fit in there. But let's rotate out and just make sure. I actually don't want it to fit in there because if it's like permanently stuck, it'll kind of ruin the game. So let me just move it and see. But it could potentially so it's not gonna get stuck, but it might just get like wedged in certain spots. And that's fine. I'll make it a little bit bigger. Now I could and rotate it again a little bit. Make sure this is blocked off, and it could still probably get like I said, I don't want to get stuck, but maybe if it just bounces in there, oh, it won't get stuck because it's way too close to the wall, so it'll be fine like that. So now that I like this shape, I'm going to duplicate this and then move the other shape over on this side for the same effect. And really, I'm doing this for the reason, once again, because I do have a lot of gaps in here. I'm trying to think if I want to add another small piece over here. I know I said kind of was done, but let me, I duplicated it and I am trying to move it over here. This is 90. I'm just going to attach it to this wall. And let me change it to 8. Just move it down a little bit. Okay. So I'm using my arrow keys just to see how this ball moves in the space. So once again, try to make sure this won't get wedged in there. It looks like it'll be fine. And then just to make sure that this could fit through. And I know I was hitting the wall over there, but it could fit through. And then end. So this is going to be my maze. I'm going to print out Now, before printing it out, I also want to make sure I group everything. So you want to make sure that the ball is not in the maze anymore. And then select everything. I like to click off to the side, select a red square around it, and then group everything. And there we go. Because it turned, most of the colors were red, so it turned red. Let me change to a lighter color. And that is my maze. So you can make something like, so this is, I think it's more of a trickier kind of maze. You can make something like this. You can do less walls. And you can even do walls that are not even walls. It's really up to you how you want to make this as your maze. So this is a little fun activity. I'm actually gonna check this one more time because this is like worrying me a little bit. It does look like it's, oh yeah, I'm gonna move this fan. Look at this. This looks like it's way too close. I definitely, like I said, make sure your ball can fit in all the corners. So I just move this fan down. As you see, I'm sure would have got stuck right in there. So make sure your ball can fit in all the corners before we print it out. I will also check your prints before they're done just to make sure that everything does work. And once again, when you're ready, let me know what color you want it to print out as. You're going to get a 7mm ball bearing. You're going to get a piece of plastic that's going to go over this, and it will be screwed together with little tiny screws. So don't worry about, you don't have to ever lose the ball or worry about your game like being a one-time use. So I made sure, and I was hoping that this would be something that you could play over and over again. Share with your friends at school, show them how cool your maze can be. So I hope you all enjoy this. If you have any questions or want to do any one-on-one appointments, just let me know. Here's my contact information. And I hope you all have fun tinkering. Thank you.